Join us, Alex
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives. On today's episode, we're talking with dance studio owner Sara Corkum about her inspiring journey from spreadsheets to spotlights. Sara made the brave decision to fill a gap she found to be missing as a single mom, and in the process created an amazing and unstoppable community.
Hi, Ox. Hi, Colleen. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. But Here's what I want to talk to you about. Being a single mom and entrepreneurship. We've both done the single mom thing.
Yes, although I was not an entrepreneur when I was a single mom.
Oh, weren't you?
No.
Yeah.
I was not. But I did work on my mat leave.
Did you work on your mat leave?
Oh, yeah.
What were you thinking?
I needed the money.
Yeah, right. That's the thing.
I was thinking I had a mortgage to pay.
You're right. That's the thing. I was a single mom for the first couple of years of my oldest daughter's life, and then got married, and then 12 years later, got divorced, and then have become a single mom again. And yeah, it's a challenge raising kids while you're also trying to run a business, while you're also trying to be everywhere they need to be, and part of it is you're trying to show them who you are and show them, but show them that everybody can do this. This is great. This is, look at mom, look how awesome mom is. But then the other part of it is they see that you're they want you to be there more for them. They think that you're working too much. But if you had a 9-to-5 job, you'd be working too much for them as well. And it's a tough.
Yeah, I think because Carrie was like 20 months when I met Matt. So I don't think has too many recollections of that time or had really any demands. He was in daycare and so I don't know that it had as much impact on him, but I will say this. I think even if you're not a single mother, trying to balance everything as an entrepreneur and be there for your children and be an active partner and be part of a household, it's challenging anyway. I think it's challenging no matter what's going on. Everybody has a lot of balls in the air, but
right.
I think being a single parent certainly adds an extra layer to everything.
Yeah, it does. All right. Speaking of single moms, we have with us today Sara Corkum. Hi, Sara. Welcome to the mic.
Hi.
Hi. Sara has a very interesting background. You were an accountant. Mm-hmm. You have had many roles as, what was your most recent one? Was a
I was the director of finance of a local social enterprise.
Oh, the social enterprise. Okay. And then at some point, Sara decided she's, had all this finance background, has been a controller, has been a head of all of this. And then you started a dance studio. You chased a passion. And then you were doing both of them at the same time, then gave up your world of finance and took over the dance studio full time. Do I have it correct?
Mostly, yeah. They really kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah.
I opened my dance studio in 2015, but I had been working the whole time. I actually opened my dance studio shortly after coming back from maternity leave with my daughter. And I remember when I opened it, I was in a local community center and I contacted them. And the whole reason I started it is because I had a baby and dance had been a big part of my life growing up. And I was awake one night. It was like 3:00 in the morning. I was in the rocking chair with this little baby that didn't want to sleep. And I was like, oh, well, she's a year now. She's starting daycare. We should start an activity. Let's do a dance class. And I was going through the dance classes and looking at all the studios. And I was like, well, none of them are exactly where I want to put her. Where am I going to put her? And then at 3:00 in the morning, I messaged a friend of mine and was like, should I open a dance studio? She was not awake. There was no response. So then I sat with that question in the rocking chair in my daughter's bedroom, just rocking like, I don't know, like, should I? Maybe I should. Maybe I will. And then by around 6:00 in the morning, the idea was like, yeah, I'm opening one and it's just for babies. Oh, so it'll just be for my baby, but I will teach the dance class because they don't trust anyone else to do it. So I remember contacting our local community center and saying like, I just want to rent for like 2 hours on a Saturday. And she was like, okay, it's $25 plus tax an hour. And I was like, okay, but if no one registers, can I get my money back? Because $50 on mat leave is a huge deal.
Right.
This is a big investment. And so I put on like a free trial class in the community, advertised it in some mom groups that I was in. And I was standing outside there with my kid and her baby carrier, like nobody's coming. It's going to be just me. Like nobody's going to think I'm a good dance teacher. And then we had really like full classes, like a really great community turnout. And I was like, okay, that was in August. So we'll launch a school in September. And I started my studio in September 2015 with, I think it was like 41, 42 students. Most of them were really little, around my daughter's age. And I started with like a mommy and me dance class. We called it Parent and Taught, so that it was gender neutral, and a creative movement for age 3 to 5. So she had somewhere to go when she got older. And then we started getting contacted by people who had like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old. So I added classes over the year, and over the year it grew. And by June, when we did our year-end recital, we had 80 students.
Wow.
And so I thought, yeah, I can do this on like a Saturday and one night a week, and I can still work as the controller of a company. And I balanced all of that plus having my daughter. And at the time that I opened the studio, I was in a long-term committed relationship. And I look back on that recital video and listen to the praises I gave and the thank yous and kind of go, wow, glad that's all in digital video out there.
Yeah.
But then after the end of that first season of dance, there was a huge change for me personally, and I became a single mom. And I remember having conversations with friends and with people that I trusted as mentors and saying like, what do I do? Like I have this baby and it's just me and her. But I like, do I give it up? Like dance has been a part of my life, my whole life. Do I give it up? And they were like, no, you should try and balance it if you can. So my sister stepped in, my brother, my mom, my dad, like people stepped in to help. And it went from 80 kids in 2015 to 340 kids now.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Things have changed in 10 years.
I was going to ask you what sparked this dream of yours, but I'm blown away that it was a middle of the night with the baby.
I mean, what I know about dancers, once a dancer, always a dancer.
100%. Yeah.
My best friend was a dancer growing up, and she teaches dance now as well. And, was very involved with dance her whole life. I think once you're kind of ingrained in that, it never really leaves you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking. I was thinking it was a hormonal messed up head that was just like, I'm going to do all the things.
That might have been the gumption.
There was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of this like, well, maybe I should do it.
Yeah.
And I did. And we went from renting an hourly rate in a community center to leasing a space on Sackville Drive, September of 2019. That was fun if we're doing calendar math. So our first year in our new space was a very short dance season.
Yeah.
And we spent the last 5 years there. And, when I leased that space, I was still working full time. And I had just stepped into the director of finance role that I did for several years. So I started there as their controller and then joined their leadership team and then moved into the director of finance role. And it was so important and so pivotal in my growth to move from that more corporate finance into the social enterprise side of things and just to see a different way of doing business. During my time there, they did some really wonderful supportive things. They sent me to the Purpose-Led Business School, which was really pivotal in seeing the people over profit side of things. We did profit first accounting versus your traditional accounting. And I met a lot of really passionate, really cool people. And it really just fueled my passion to stay on the path of growing my dance studio. And, I think I probably would have always tried to balance both. If the owner, who is a man that I respect greatly, hadn't said like, you know what, kid, I think it's time we just say your role is done. And I think it's time we just say like, time to fly, time to go. Like we don't have the space for you here anymore. And at first I thought like, what am I going to do now? But it really was that push that I needed to go, okay, well, I'm full into the dance studio now. And so I've only been fully into and fully reliant on my own business for 2 years now, but I've been running it for 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
How hard was it to leave full-time that that full-time work to owning your own business? Like to like fully committed owning your own business. Was that terrifying?
Yeah, that's why he had to push me.
Yeah.
Because I had been talking about it for a long time, long time, and saying to my dad, like, I think this is the year, Dad. I think this is the year I'm going to tell them, like, sorry, I can't keep balancing both. I've got to be full dance studio. And I wasn't doing it. And my dad was like, that's okay. Like, you'll know when it's time. You'll know when you're ready. And it was such a God moment of like, there you go. You're going to go. And even if you're not ready, you're going to figure it out. Yeah. And so it was not a negative. It was a very positive and very supportive, like, okay, Sarah, like I've watched you balance two for too long.
He pushed the baby bird out of the nest.
100%. Yes. Yeah. And so I at first was really scared. Like it was so soon after like the instability of COVID and all of that, but it was all such divine timing of, I had that role during COVID when I didn't have dance. And then when we were trying to rebuild after COVID, and then, when child sports and all of that came back in full swing and people were more willing to accept, I guess, risk in group settings of virus and all of that. Once things were back to a point where the dance studio again was back to where it had been pre-COVID, I could have made the leap, but was too afraid to.
And it probably would have been very scary had you had the full-time dance studio during COVID, like that was that you were relying fully on the studio rather than the other job as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was when I think back on it, I don't know how we survived. There were some lovely dance studios I know that closed because of it. Our whole end goal is performing to get those. Yeah, we train the kids, and some of them will go on to dance professionally, but most of them won't. Most of them will find ways to keep dance alive in their own hearts, like I did. But performing is what really drives them. And we couldn't. I still remember it was a Christmas recital, and we weren't allowed to gather in groups larger than 10. So if we had a team of 14 kids, we split them into 2 groups of 7, and we reblocked their dances. And we went to the Bella Rose, the theater at Halifax West High School. And we live streamed it to the parents sitting in the parking lot in their cars. And we put the kids on stage 10 at a time. And they did their routines to an empty theater. And the parents watched individually solo in their cars. And it's
what a strange time.
Like, oh my gosh, looking back on it, it's like a fever dream.
Right.
But that's what we did. That's how we stayed.
We had a similar
invested
experience too, because Carrie was in dance then. And they did a lot of different things like that too, so that you could still see them. But I think everything shut down right before his performance, like one of his performances. So we missed that one, but it's just such a weird time for stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, had dance been my sole income, that would have been, I mean, it was terrifying regardless, but it would have just been extra anxiety on top of what everybody was already feeling. But yeah, so, I mean, I'm so grateful for the things that I had to bolster me through, like the startup phase, the COVID phase, but even just really growing my own confidence as a business owner and growing that confidence that it's going to be sustainable. Like the dance year, it ends. Our dance year is ending in, just over a month. And we opened registration yesterday for all of our current students. And I sent the email. And even now, even with, we have 340 kids and adults who dedicated come to classes every week. And I'm sitting there hitting the send button on the email going like, oh, I hope they decide to come back, send, okay. And then you got to walk away from the laptop.
Right.
Because you don't want to see any responses that come in just in case they're not positive. So even now there's that like, oh gosh, but at least after 10 years, some of the kids that I teach have been with me since that first year in that initial group of 40.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit more comfort, but I don't think entrepreneurs ever really have that like, yeah, this is going to carry me through to retirement kind of feeling.
Right. Because anything can happen at any time. Right?
Yeah, we could have a pandemic and shut down. Who knows?
Who knew, right? Looking to relax and rejuvenate? Treat yourself at Bello Day Spa. Located in the heart of Bedford West, from luxurious facials and brow services to soothing massages, waxing, and perfect manis, pedis, their team has you covered. Bello Day Spa isn't just a place for pampering. Their friendly staff will help you find the perfect skincare products from their wide selection of premium lines. Ready to refresh your routine? Book your appointment today and discover why Bello Day Spa is your neighborhood go-to spot for relaxation and self-care. Bello Day Spa, your local relaxation retreat. I was going to ask you about being a single mom, but let's jump back to that after, because we started talking about a little of the scary stuff and the imposter syndrome stuff. Talk to me about what really triggers you as being with imposter syndrome, because you made some comment in our email exchange back and forth that calling yourself a CEO or a business owner is really a tough sell for you. You feel the imposter syndrome there.
It is. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody that it was introduced to me through different friends, and I was having a conversation. They said, everybody always asks like, oh, what do you do? That's one of the first things we ask people, and we tend to put a big value on the positions that people hold. So I was asked, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a dance teacher. And then they started talking, and I interrupted. I was like, no, that's wrong. Like, I do teach dance. I am there 6 days a week in a classroom, but that's not actually like my job. They were like just kind of floored. Like, what do you mean? I said, well, no, I run a business. And they were like, oh, it's like, no, I run a dance studio. Like, I'm the owner and operator of a business, but I'm also the director of finance of a business. I'm also the head of marketing.
Yeah.
I'm also the head of communications. Like, it really devalues myself. Not that there's anything wrong with being just a dance teacher. It's such a viable career. And I wish that more of the kids dancing understood that there is a future for you if you want to be a dance teacher. But I went to school for so many years, and I gained so much education so that I could open this. And I do my own accounting. I do my own scheduling and my own managing, and I manage a staff of 11 at my studio. And yet I describe myself as a dance teacher.
I've known a lot of successful entrepreneurs through the years that started in finance.
Really?
A lot. And some of them who, were doing the books for other organizations and whatnot, and then all of a sudden go, hang on a second here. I need to buy this organization, as things have happened. So I'm not, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that started in that role.
I mean, I think it's
Probably.
a great skill set to have if you are an entrepreneur, because I think that's one of the major things that people struggle with the most is bookkeeping and balancing and cash flow and retention and that kind of thing. If you have any kind of level of comfort in that area, you're certainly going to have a leg up, I think.
I think so
and then
too.
you don't have to outsource it as well. So that's always nice because it's not cheap to, hire an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think you would step away from the actual teaching of dance and just run the business and let everybody else do the
I'm going to be that old lady walking around with my cane, like tapping the kids with the cane, like lift your leg higher. I tell the kids now, they're like, oh, can you show us how to do it? And I'm like, no, I am 38 years old. I have done my time.
Yeah.
I will not be holding that plank for you. Did my time. You get down and hold it, and I'll tell you if it's right. I love being in the classroom. I love working with the kids. I love the creation process every year, creating new routines. I love the challenge of a dancer who might learn a little bit differently and has tried, learning from different structured environments. I love the puzzle of going like, okay, well, this isn't connecting. So how can I do this differently so that I can help it connect for them? And I get so much intrinsic joy from the light bulb moment of a kid who hasn't gotten it, getting it, that I can't see stepping away from that anytime soon.
It's interesting that you're working with kids, helping them gain confidence, because really in a sport like dance, you are teaching confidence.
Oh,
you
yes.
are teaching them to shine. You're teaching them to be themselves, to work harder, to do better than the last time they did it, you know? And yet you have imposter syndrome.
Yeah, but I mean, don't we all?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have a podcast, I
We
guess.
wouldn't have a podcast.
Didn't, but
Right. How do you think we can help the younger generation not have all of the confidence issues that we have?
I mean, that's such a tall order to take on. Just this past weekend, we were at a dance competition and my own daughter was getting ready to go on stage and she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, my dance, I don't want to do it." I was like, "Oh, well, why?" And she was like, "I don't know. I don't feel confident. I don't want to do it." And so in that moment, I mean, dance teacher Sarah took over, not mom Sarah. And I said to her, being brave isn't being ready. Being brave is being terrified and doing it anyway. And there's a lesson to learn in that. And whether you go out and you perform the best you've ever performed and you bring home a trophy, or you go out and it was not your best performance, but you went out when you would have rather hid away from it, that's the lesson and that's the win. And it's not about how you score. It's about whether you were brave enough to step on that stage despite not wanting to be there. Yeah. And I think that teaching them confidence is the culmination of all of those small moments. As simple as we teach a new combo in dance and I want someone to go first across the floor. No, you don't know the timing and no, you're probably going to do it wrong, but go first and do it wrong and see that the sky doesn't fall if you do it wrong. You just do it better the next time. And I think if we can really do the work of not passing on our own fears of not being perfect the first time, we will allow the next generation to be comfortable in making mistakes. And that's where their confidence will start.
Yeah, I think it's really important because what you're explaining is really resilience. And very few kids growing up these days have a ton of it. Just because of the way society is and the way that parenting has shifted, there's just not as many opportunities for kids to fail and know that that's okay. Or not even fail, but like you said, do something and maybe it's not the best they've ever done, or overcome those feelings. Because once you do that, that's where your confidence starts to grow because you know that you survived that situation and you came out of it okay and stronger. So I think that's really important. I love that because I think any more opportunities for resilience, the better, in terms of being able to have some real tangible life skills.
And I get the whole, what you're saying, the word fail. Like, I think I watched years with my kids in sports, that whether it was that they didn't keep score because they didn't want anyone to feel bad, or everybody got a ribbon, or, and then it got to the point that, when they were trying out for higher level sports, I remember when they were getting cut sometimes from teams and stuff, and the devastation was massive because they hadn't had some of those smaller little didn't make the team along the way.
Right. Yeah, if you never learn how to deal with disappointment or even expectations not being met in the way that you had thought they would be, and kind of sat in that discomfort and realized that you can move past that and process it, it becomes harder and harder and harder. And then when you're hit with something kind of major like that later on in life, then it's very, very difficult to know how to navigate that. And I do think that's why we're seeing increased rates in anxiety and different things like that, because there's just no one knows how to deal with those feelings when they come up. So I think it's great to be able to start to infuse that for kids as they're going through.
Yeah. I mean, it really truly takes a village. You are part of the village of raising other people's children. In many ways, I mean, as the owner of a dance studio, as the woman that's front facing with those children for whether it's 1 hour a week or several hours a week, when they don't have their phones with them, you are the person that's in front of those children to help raise them. That's a, like you said, it's tall order. But it's such an important role. The role of a coach, the role of a teacher in a child's life is so important, Yeah,
we talk a lot about our dance studio being not just a place you come to learn, but a place you come to be, like a place we really try and foster community and family values. Like I got 3 of our teams together in a room last night and I said, we're going to competition this weekend. You're all against each other. And they were like, what? I said, well, everybody in here is between 9 and 11. That's the category. Like your average age is 9 to 11 and you're all doing acro dances because you're all acro teams. So you are going to end up against each other. But I want you to remember, we're not going as you guys are tumble and you guys are twist and you guys are flow, and tumble, twist, and flow or compete. Like, your team motion, and a win for any of you is a win for our studio. And I want you in the wings cheering for each other, even though you're going to look at that program and go, oh, they're against me. We're not trying to beat each other. We're not trying to compete against each other. We are trying to support each other and have everybody go out and do their best. And it's hard. It's hard in a competitive environment because you're warring with being on a team and you want your team to come out on top, but then maybe having a friend on another team and you want your friend to succeed too. So I think there's a lot of really interesting lessons in there as well, in that there's different ways to win.
Yeah.
Right.
Different definitions of success. I like that.
Yeah. And I think that if the next generation can learn those lessons, and I mean, dance teaches so much more, like the work ethic and the dedication that you need to learn a piece and clean it so that 12 of you are dancing completely in unison is unbelievable. And it's skills that will help them in the future. I wish that I had brought the actual statistic with me. I don't know it, so I'm going to quote it terribly. But I read a statistic and I looked it up to make sure it was true. But the majority of women who hold those C-suite roles, the CEO, the CFO, all of that, they were in a competitive sport growing up. So we're teaching them something right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's the leadership and, like you said, the resilience.
And the discipline. You know, that's ultimately why Carrie didn't make it in dance. He just didn't have the drive to be able to practice and keep up with it. And then he eventually lost interest in it. But I do think you do have to have a certain level of discipline and drive to be able to move to the next level. And ultimately that was, you know, something he was comfortable with moving away from. Yeah. But I do think there's so many important lessons in there between community and discipline and work ethic, like you said, you're part of something bigger. And you have to really appreciate that there's other people in that sphere that you are engaging with. And I think that's valuable. Very valuable.
That's always been the goal. And I try and keep myself in check too. And, you know, like I've built such strong relationships with so many of these kids, but when we get close to exams or we get close to competitions and I'm looking at them like, why am I telling you for the 10th time to point your toes? Like, we've been doing this dance for a year now. What is happening? And then I'll step back and just kind of internally check myself and go, you started this studio in a rocking chair because you wanted the space for your baby to be that was safe. So let's make sure that we, let's make sure that we are that safe space for this baby. This is somebody's baby who also needs that safe space. So, you know, if that means that we go to a competition and the routine's not going to get a gold, but the kid's mental health is intact, that's more important to me anyway.
I love that too, because what I was starting to see when Carrie was getting a little bit older is that it was very much, it was kind of cliquey, and it was there was some opportunity for it to become toxic that I could see in terms of just body image and that kind of things, because he's not super slight. And you know, more and more as you were getting older, there was like less and less clothing in the classes, and it was very, very much body centric. So I did worry about some of that messaging. So I love to hear that, you know, it's a safe space and everyone is inclusive, because I think that's important for those things as well.
One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because. Yeah, my oldest did dance for many, many years, from the time she was 4 to, 20 beyond. And she did, I think the dance instructor can make such a difference in that child's life with confidence. There was definitely different times that she had different instructors that didn't bring out the best in her. And then others that were tough on her that did bring out the best in her. But I think sometimes, I don't know. It's that job is a really important job. And I love that you, like Alex said, the mental health of a child is so incredibly important. And you've got a role to play in that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I take it very seriously. I I'm sure that there are students that I teach or have taught in the past that my approach has not brought out the best in them as well. But I try and keep myself in check, and then I try and remember every stage that my daughter has gone through. So she's 11 now. So I try and remember like, oh, when she was really little and she was terrified to be away from her mom, how did that feel? Mm-hmm. So then when I'm teaching the 3-year-olds and bringing them into the room alone for the first time, I'm remembering like, well, I know how hard it was for my kids. So here's how we made it easy for her. Let's try that with this dancer. And then as they get older, and now that she's 11, there are lots of new lessons that I am learning parenting an 11-year-old, which really led to the creation of my second business. I own a dance competition as well.
Oh, you do?
I do. See,
wow.
Didn't mention that either.
No, you didn't, right?
Yeah. So I own a dance competition called the Buzz Dance Challenge.
Okay.
And it is for ages 12 and under only. So if you've ever been to a dance competition with a child, you know that all of the top awards and all of everything, they're going to the 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, as they should. Those kids have put in the time. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's where the recognition should go. They should be at the top of their game and they should be the strongest. But when you're 10 and 11 and 12 and your body is starting to develop and things are changing and emotions are changing, nobody at 11 feels good about themselves. Nobody at 11 believes that they, are seen. And so then at this competition, our senior age is 10 to 12. So our 10 to 12-year-olds are the ones that are getting that recognition, because 11 and 12, that's when you see most people leaving dance or leaving any sort of competitive sport, because the thought process is, well, if I haven't been winning yet, I'm not going to. And they're at such an emotionally delicate age that they leave. I left dance when I was 11 or 12.
I think I did too.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
That's when I left. Yeah.
I left dance because I was feeling like I wasn't good enough. I didn't look like the other girls. I was shorter than the other girls. I couldn't do the acro tricks the other girls could do. So I didn't see my own value when I left. And so I created this competition because I wanted them to have a place to be seen and to get through that hump. Because I remember leaving, and then I remember my mom was in the bathroom, I don't know, getting ready for work, getting ready for something. And my dramatic ass walked to the bathroom door and leaned in the door frame, and I'm, Mom, something's missing. And she was like, what? What did you lose? I was like, no, Mom, in here, something's missing. And she was like, what? I was like, I think I have to dance again. She was like, that's fine. We'll just call the studio.
Sign you back up.
Like, why? What's wrong? Why are we so concerned? I was like, Mom, it's just missing and I need to go back. So Mom put me back in dance. And I've been dancing ever since. But people don't always have that recognition of like, oh, I miss the community of it, or I miss the physicality of it, or even the emotionality of it. My studio had probably the hardest thing we've ever dealt with ever happen this year.
I did.
Yeah, you probably are a bit aware of it. We lost a student, and she passed away in a really tragic way. And I mean, how do you process that on your own? Let alone how do you carry the grief of the kids that you're trying to teach? And how do you go, yeah, I know we're sad, but cardio time is on and I need those high knees, please. Like, you can't. I
wasn't going to bring it up. I'm glad you've brought it up, because you did have a tragic loss of a young girl in your studio. So how do you honor that for the children, for the kid? Like, how do you move on? How do you move forward when you've got sad kids?
We definitely
sad team.
Sad team. Sad
really.
community. Yeah.
It was so much further reaching than we could have ever imagined. Alana was a part of our competitive hip hop program. But she was also in our studio-wide production with 85 of our competitive dancers. And she also took recreational acro, and she also took recreational contemporary and ballet. But she also went to school with a lot of these kids. Sackville's not a large community. Everything's so interconnected. And even if they didn't know her, like, she was a baby. She was 9, and she died, and nobody should die at that age.
No.
And it was hard. And so for the first week, we didn't hold regular classes. We had she's actually one of our dance moms, but Carrie Rain, who works with the Cobequid, I always say it wrong, the Cobequid Youth Health Program or something like that. This is terrible. I should know. But she works with the Cobequid with youth and mental health. She's a social worker. And I called her and I just said, like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do. Like, I am not adult enough for this and I need an adultier adult to tell me what to do.
But you were adult enough about it because you did. You asked.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Like,
That's true.
And I think that's the thing. It takes a village. Like, you knew, I don't have these skills.
Yeah.
There is a different person with these skills that will guide me through this. So
That's true.
you were adult enough.
See,
Yeah.
this is my imposter syndrome
Right.
telling me that I didn't do the right
You
thing.
did the
right?
right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had Carrie come in and we had all of her classes sit with Carrie. We made a poster, we put a picture on it, and the kids wrote messages to her that we gave to her mom. We wrote memories on little hearts and we put them in a jar. And when her mom's ready, that's there for her to pick up. And we gave the kids, we called them pocket hearts, just like little squishy felt hearts so that they could keep them in their pockets anytime they needed a hug. And we just gave them space to talk. And some of the kids wanted to dance. They didn't want to talk. They wanted to put on music and they wanted to dance. And that was cool. And there was no judgment. So here is your teacher. Your teacher's going to dance with you. But you don't want to dance. Here's Carrie, and Carrie's going to talk to you. And you don't want to do either. I don't know. I'm sitting here. Do you want a hug? Like, that's what we did for the first week. And then, we just let the kids know there's no timeline for grief. And there's no timeline for feeling better. And there will never be a day that we don't talk about Alana at the dance studio. But at the end of the day, we did have to continue with what we were doing. So some things we made a conscious decision to do is for her specific team. They had a moment where everybody kind of rotated around in a circle. So they all got a solo moment at the start. And so we decided, okay, the 8 counts that were Alana's, we're holding all year. And if nobody gets it, we get it. And we got black armbands for the kids to wear when we're competing with our costumes to signify the loss of a teammate. And we just let them be sad. We had one class where the kids just said, I'm sad. I was like, great. I'm going to put on the saddest song I can find. I'm going to stand outside the door and cry because my grief is heavy. And I'm going to let you dance your grief out. And if you want to come out with me, come be sad out here. If you want to work it out in here, be sad in there. And if you want to go home, we'll call mom. You tell me what you need. And that's what we did. And I'm going to cry now.
I'm crying.
I know, I did not expect this to be an
I wasn't
emotional
going to cry
episode.
today.
It's, and it's hard. And Alana started dance with her best friend, Kylie. And so what we do is we make sure that Kylie always has somebody new to, she's never alone warming up. If we're going across the floor and it's odd numbers, the kids know.
Yeah.
Go be Kylie's partner. Let somebody else be the odd one out so she doesn't feel the loss. And we've started a new award that we're going to give out at our recital every year. And it is the Alana Lappy Friendship Award. And it's going to go to a group of dancers who show that friendship to go towards a scholarship for them to dance together in a duo the next year. So,
so nice.
She'll never be forgotten. We dedicated our production to her this year. I picked my favorite. I love Harry Styles.
Yeah.
All my kids know I love Harry Styles. And so we're doing a Harry Styles production this year to Fine Line. Which I don't know if you know the song, but it's beautiful and it's very long. And he just sings "We'll Be All Right" over and over and over again. And I picked the song back in August. We started the choreography in September, and it was just the most again, it was a God moment of oh, you guys need that this year. So I'm going to give it to you. You just don't know why you have it yet. And when we went to a competition in March and it was production day, we're doing the point your toes, make sure let's practice the lift. Let's make sure we've got all of this right. And then I just said to the kids, let's just dance this for Alana because she's not here to dance with us. And I look at the pictures and the kids, they just sobbed on stage. And it was so grief driven. And then we came off and the 84 of us stood in this massive hug. Everybody probably hated us. We were taking up all the space, just hugging backstage and crying, but they needed that.
Sarah, I think you've done a beautiful thing. I think you and Carrie, Carrie was her name, right?
Carrie, yeah.
I think you've really done a beautiful thing for these children because you've dealt with grief. You're still dealing with grief. I've dealt with grief in my past. I've dealt
Not-
with the loss of a
not child
friend.
grief, though.
I dealt with the loss of a friend, but I was a teenager. I certainly didn't deal with the loss as a child. These are such integral moments for all of us. Grief,
Mhm.
it's so important. And if you don't take time to walk through that, and I'm sure there's parents out there that didn't know how to walk through that with their children. So having a space in your dance studio where those children were allowed to grieve in however they needed to grieve, you have helped that. You've helped them tremendously. I don't think you probably even know, I think you've helped them tremendously.
Well,
And
I think
kudos,
just from lifelong understanding and dealing with grief and knowing that you have to give it space and you have to feel those feelings, which so many people repress. I think the value in that is huge in itself. Just allowing people to understand that that grief isn't linear and that it shows up differently, and there's no right way to grieve or to be sad. I think there's a lot of value in understanding that.
It'll shape them
It's
in one way or another.
100%.
Yeah.
I lost a friend when I was in high school,
Yeah.
and I still think about it very often.
Me too.
It's it's unbelievable. It changes you. It rewires you. And all we can do is, make sure the kids feel safe to feel how they need to feel.
Yeah.
In the dance studio, and know that, I've never put performance over the person. And so, when those kids, they're doing a hip hop, they're intergalactic space aliens. That was Alana's dance,
Yeah.
Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys, and we're like crying to the beat of Intergalactic. And it's if nobody else gets it, I don't care. We get it, and we're going to celebrate you later because you went on stage and you did that. And it doesn't matter if the judges were baffled with, why are you crying in space buns? We know.
We know.
And that's what
all that
matters.
matters. Yeah, you're a team, right? You're a team, and you're going through this together. You're a community, and you're going through this together. And I love what you've done. I do love what you've done. You've helped those children. You've really, truly helped those children.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the end of the day. That's what dance was for me, and that's why I do it. I guess there are people that are passionate about finance. There must be. It was not me, but I'm sure there are people that that's what gets them out of bed in the morning. It never did for me, but being able to do this, being able to, whether it's helping a kid get into a ballet company one day in the future, or whether it's just giving a kid somewhere to feel their feelings, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And that's ultimately why I made the career shift I did.
Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets. Where do you see Motion Dance Center go in the next 5 years?
Oh, man. I don't even know that I could fathom it. I mean, even just this past year, I bought a building.
You bought a building. You did.
Frig, I bought a building. Who knew?
Right.
And 10 years ago, I was saying, Jessica, if people don't come to my dance classes, can I have my $50 plus tax back?
Right.
Because that was where my belief in myself was. And then when the space that we were leasing from said, I'm sorry, we can't have you back. And I thought, well, what now? I reached out to a real estate friend. I grew up with her daughter, so I knew her quite well through her daughter. We were friends in school. And I just reached out. I said, Bailu, what do I do? I'm going to have to shut down. I'm going to be poor. I'm going to lose my house. What am I going to do? She was like, wow, calm down. We're just going to start looking for a new space. And even getting the building was such a God moment. She called me and she said, I know you're teaching. Can somebody cover you? There's a building for sale. You have to come see it. And so I very, very calmly, of course, went to my other teacher. I was like, take my kids. I got to go. She's like, why? I was like, I can't tell you. It's a secret. I'll be back. Ditched my kids with her. I was like, we're going to go with Miss Abby. It's going to be a fun day. Bye, guys. I'll be back really soon. and everyone's watching me like I'm a crazy person, which I must have looked like. And I, ran out, went down the road, and I looked at this building for sale, and I was like, yeah, let's put an offer in. I'm never going to get it. Let's put an offer in. And I put an offer in. And then it was a few days later, and I was running my dance competition, and I'm sitting there and up with the adjudicators, and I've got my little microphone, and I'm announcing like, next on stage is routine number 579. And then I see my phone ring, and it's the real estate agent. I was like, oh no, that's not a good call. The day after. This is bad. So I finished announcing, and then I look at my assistant, and I was like, if I'm not back, keep announcing. And then I grabbed my phone and I ran, and she was like, we lost it. You were outbid. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is my last year in business then. I don't know. She was like, no, I think you should put a counter offer in. I was like, why? Like, I'm already tapped out. I can't afford a counter. She was like, just put a counter offer in. So I put a counter offer in that I couldn't afford. And then I called my lovely aunt, who is also my godmother, absolutely crying, and told her I did that. And she said, okay, well, if I will help you if it comes down to it, like, you're okay. And they said, no, we appreciate the counter. We'll put it on file. But the other offer was much higher, and we're going with that. And so, like, I went with my real estate agent. We looked at spaces for lease. We looked at spaces for purchase. I was finding nothing. I was to the point I was looking to see if I could get a permit to put like a tiny space in my backyard and just go to offering like 1-room classes just with me. And then we got a phone call that the other people's financing fell through.
Stop
I
it.
was the counter on record. So they had to give it to me.
Amazing.
Yay!
And I remember like standing in the lot of other buildings and looking at that space and being like whining very, immaturely, like, oh, Betty Lou, I just wish that was my space. And she was like, we got to let it go, kid. Like, they haven't fully closed yet, but they have accepted the offer. And she called me and she's like, it fell through. And I had to pull over, and I was like, I'm going to have to call you back. And I hung up and I cried, and I called my dad, and my dad cried. And then I went to pick my daughter up at school, and she was like, are you crying? I was like, yeah, but they're really good tears.
So you're surrounded by good people who are helping you.
Oh, I
Right?
have a support system that if it wasn't in place, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And if my daughter didn't have the same passion and love for what I love,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do this. Like there are so many blessings in my life that it's only by the grace of God that I have what I have. And I'm so lucky that I have the daughter that I have.
Mm.
She makes me brave because I want to be brave for her. And so she shows me every day new ways that I can show up for her, for the kids that I teach, and for myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think we all feel that way as parents. It's definitely gives you a different motivation for sure.
Yeah, very much. What would you say to other women out there that are looking to chase their passion and pushing through that imposter syndrome and, getting the confidence to get there, to build the dream? What would you say to women out there? What would you have said to yourself, in 2015 when you were scared to death, like looking at it now?
I think current Sarah would tell past Sarah, what's the worst that could happen? Like, so you start a business and it doesn't work. Well, who cares? You tried. At least I would rather do something and not have longevity in it, because doing it is a success. If it doesn't continue, that's not a failure. The only thing that you're really measuring is your longevity. Your success is actually trying.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would say to my past self is like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, it's the same.
Just do it.
It's that same lesson, when you're talking to your daughter about not wanting to, go into her dance. You're like, going up there and doing the dance scared is the success. And I think it's the same thing about entrepreneurship. Doing it scared, and Kayla Short said that in our last episode too. That's the goal. That's the win, is, pushing past that discomfort, and whatever comes after that, comes. But knowing that you have the confidence to push through discomfort, I think, is so huge.
We don't live in a society that promotes entrepreneurship, though. And we don't live in a society that promotes risk taking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing to unlearn is that it's okay to not do what you're taught in school is supposed to be the path. I'm glad I went to university. Don't get me wrong. I'm so glad I went to university, because it's given me so many skills to run my business. And I will forever be thankful for my grandparents who made it possible for me to go. There's a lot of people that don't have that privilege and don't have that ability. And I think a big lesson to unlearn is that you can still do it. You can still take that leap without, I don't know, without following the path that you're told you need to follow.
Well, I think there's a lot of young people out there when they're starting university or starting college or going off for a year on their own or whatever. They're terrified. They're thinking that I need to pick the program or the whatever that is going to work for my entire life. No, you don't.
Particularly not now.
Not go do something. You're going to have multiple different career changes, but just launch, go do something, and or chase your passion. Go chase your passion if you want.
But nobody tells you that. Even my parents, like they're so supportive. But even my dad said to me a few years ago, he was like, what about a pension? Don't you need a pension? I was like, Dad, most jobs don't even give pensions anymore. Like, it's not like when he started a career at 26 and did it until retirement.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And I think it's hard for us too, even the generation that we are, to be passing knowledge onto our kids, because the world they're growing up in is not the world that we're currently living in.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different. I mean, it was different for my kids. It's different again for both of your kids.
A lot of the careers that they will probably have might not exist yet.
Well, and that's so true too. But like right now, my biggest success, it's not buying a building for my dance studio. It's not running a competition for 3 years in a row. My biggest success is that when I said to my daughter the other day, what do you want to do when you're older? She was like, I think at 18, I'm either going to try and be a rockette or I'm going to try and dance on a cruise ship because I'd like to see the world and then I'll figure it out after that. That's the success.
Yay,
because
mama.
Right? Because she's not thinking like, I'm going to finish high school and then I'm going to go to university. Like, she's like, I think I'd actually like to see the world. And she feels safe enough to claim that as a future for herself. And I didn't at 11. At 11, it was like, do you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant? I chose accountant and my brother chose lawyer. But then I unchose accountant. I still do accounting, do my own books, but I just do the bookkeeping. I hired a lovely accountant to do my year ends because that's not stress that I need anymore. I'd rather put my energy elsewhere. So
I like what you just said. You unchose.
I unchose. Yeah.
I mean, and I think, and I've said this before too, I really do think we make decisions and they, lead us on a path. And I don't think there are wrong decisions. I think there are pivots and things that happen, but everything we do kind of builds us up to be the person that we're going to be, or to gives us the skills that we're going to have to be able to succeed in whatever it is we do. So I think, that having that accounting background, huge, awesome for, understanding your finances and being able to really scale your business in a substantial and quite quickly. But also having those other passions that you want to follow, it just makes it easier to get to the end result if you have those things that you do along the way, whether or not you know where you're going to end up. I don't know. I mean, I decided to go into business because I was scooping ice cream and liked being able to reconcile and do the inventory and the business, like the math of it, and really enjoyed that part of it. I was going to be a pharmacist. Well, I thought I was going to be a pharmacist. Probably wouldn't have graduated a pharmacist, but it's just those things that kind of stop you along the way and course correct. And I think they end up having a lot of merit. I don't know. I got lost on the trail there, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
get
do
lost
know
on trails all the time.
Well, we all do, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's, not to be divisive, but it's also harder for women to make the decision to be an entrepreneur than it is for for men.
Sure is.
But,
and scary too when you're, we started at the beginning of the show saying, you're a single mom. So a woman who, you need to pay the bills. Yeah. You don't have anybody to fall back on.
Oh.
You've got to pay the mortgage. You've got to pay, the bills keep coming and you have this child. It's all on you, right? It's scary as an entrepreneur.
It is, but it's also magical.
It's so amazing.
It's so magical.
Yeah.
Like she and I just get to live our best lives in however we see fit. And it's like raising her, it's like a collaborative approach because my daughter is so strong-willed that she has her ideals and we're going with them. Like she's
You do have a strong-willed one as well. I have one strong-willed out of the maybe two.
But I'm entirely responsible for her and that's scary, but I've always chose to look at the other side. Like we never did Santa Claus. in our
Okay.
house ever. Because I carry a traumatic experience of asking my parents if Santa was real to their faces, and they said yes. And I said, "Are you sure?" And they said yes. So then I set a trap for Santa.
Oh, you did not.
I did. I created 24 ornaments.
My son is the same.
And I put them in a box, and then I put them inside our piano in the living room. And I wrote Santa a letter, and I thought, if this is my parents, they are not reading a 7-page letter. They're going to look at the decorated list at the end. And I wrote Santa a letter. How's Mrs. Claus? How are the reindeer? What do they do to stay in shape when not delivering presents? All this stuff that if it was my mom and dad, they'd skip. And if it was Santa, he'd care. So, and in there I buried that I created this present for him, these ornaments, and that they were hidden and he could take them after he delivered the presents. Christmas morning rolls around. I go downstairs. Mom and dad are at the tree. My brother's at the tree. And mom's like, "Oh, sis, this one's from Santa." And I was like, "Is it?"
You are
Let me check.
Sneaky
And
girl.
There were my ornaments. So that was my confirmation. So we never did Santa because,
You guys are blazing your own trail.
Well, I never want to lie to her. I never want to be I'm a single mom. She's going to ask me tough questions one day.
Yeah.
And if I set the precedence of telling her something that is a half truth, it's going to be a slippery slope. So I will never lie to her. And so we never did Santa. But that means that at Christmas we say bye and we go to New York and we eat rainbow toasties and watch a musical. And nobody else does that. But because there's two of us and it's just me and her, we set those rules. And I'm not trying to take a husband that I've got to drag places that he doesn't want to go to and, a bunch of kids, meaning we can't afford to do as much. No, we're going to go to Broadway and we went to Broadway and we watched 3 shows. We did a matinee, an evening, a matinee the next day, and flew home. And then on Christmas, I let her look at the receipts of what I paid for. And people were like, "Oh, isn't she missing the magic of Christmas?" Like, "Nah, babe, we made our own magic. She has Corkum magic."
Yeah.
Like that's what we're doing. So it's scary being a single mom. It's scary being 100% reliant on me, but it's also forced me to believe in myself, because if I don't believe in myself, no one's going to do it for me.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. And I like that it's you, the two of you against the two of you. You're a team.
Very much so.
You're a
Yeah.
team. It's nice. All right.
Speed round.
Speed round.
Oh gosh, I'm terrified.
Don't be.
We should note too that Sarah is our first listener guest, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
You reached out to us. You're somebody you've been listening for a little bit. You wanted to jump on the show, and that's kind
So
of cool.
you know what's coming with these
Yes.
questions then, our speed round questions. We'll ask you 5 questions, try to answer, and I don't even know why we say that anymore. Just answer it the way you
Just
want.
answer. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, here we go.
Deep breath.
What's your favorite season?
Fall.
Because dance season starts?
No, because it smells the best.
Oh,
It
well,
does
that's true.
smell good.
What's your zodiac sign and do you believe in it?
Taurus, and no, but my sister tells me I'm a very classic Taurus.
Okay, that's good.
She believes in it.
If you could learn any language in a week, which would it be?
Instant panic. Oh my gosh. I would learn French.
It's a good one. Handy to have. I don't think we've had that question before.
I don't think we've had that question either.
I just
I
panicked
learned German. Did you
because-
panic?
Well,
So,
yeah, that makes
so I
sense for
turned
you.
40 next year, and
Yes.
I booked a 40th birthday trip for my daughter and I, and we're going to Greece. And I just panicked because I was going to say the language, but then I feel like an idiot because I don't know what language I would need to speak in Greece.
Greek, I think.
Greek.
Greek? Yeah. Okay. I panicked and forgot Greek was a word. So yeah,
Sorry.
I would learn Greek.
That
I
is
take
a-
back my French.
The brain works really funny, doesn't it? When you're
My brain just like
it's
flatlined.
just, yeah.
That's why this part is so scary.
Yeah.
What chore do you absolutely despise doing?
Folding the laundry. I'll wash it, but I don't want to fold it.
Stays in baskets.
And what's the one thing you could not live without?
My kid.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Yeah. Listen, you're lovely. It
Yes,
was
thank
so
you so
nice
much.
it was so nice to learn about you and and chit chat with
That
you.
was a
and-
roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah,
I was not prepared.
I wasn't prepared to cry during that either, but
Neither
it was
was
coming.
I.
The goosebumps
Yeah,
arrived
yeah.
first,
Right?
and then I,
thought
was
we were
like,
going
"Oh,
to talk about
I'm
my
going down."
fake Zach McMillan, not my.
We didn't talk about
did
that.
not.
That's we'll have to put that in a post about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you so
coming
much.
on.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. Until next time, keep your head high, and we will see you next Tuesday.